What's happening, guys? Veggie here, and today I'm going to show you the workout I'm doing at the moment from home. As you probably know, the coronavirus has essentially caused all the gyms to close at the moment, including the MMA gyms, jiu-jitsu gyms, and it's severely impacted my way of working out at the moment. But I guess you kind of have to work around it. So what I've done is I've made a little home workout routine, and to do this you'll need a yoga mat and some resistance bands of different strength variations. So the first thing I do is I do an endurance-based warm-up of 10 sets of 10 sit-ups, 10 press-ups, and 10 squats. And this is to be completed in 8 minutes. So typically I do 5 sets of each, and then I take about half a minute to a minute rest, and then jump straight back into it. And one thing you'll notice from this video is that particularly my range of motion in squats is just about hitting parallel, which to me isn't exactly good enough. So something I'm going to be working on pretty much during this week is hitting body weight squat depth a bit lower, and this is something I noticed, and I'll be showing you in the next video how I've improved upon it today, how I'm slowly learning to squat a bit lower with my body weight. As you can probably guess, squatting with a barbell on your back, it does feel natural to go lower. Bodyweight squats, I don't know why, for me the natural position does feel higher. So I am stretching more, and I'm just trying to get used to the squat position more, so I've kind of become a lot more accustomed to this. I genuinely find this endurance warm-up really exhilarating, and at the end of it you'll be really tired out, and you'll probably need about 10-15 minutes rest, and you'll be gasping for air, and you'll need water. To be honest, I was completely exhausted after I did this, and I had to take a bit of a break before I hit the isometric resistance bands, which I'll be showing you next. So this is just an example of how I'm squatting low. This is a video from today. As you can see, I'm going a little bit below parallel now, which is quite nice to see. So my squat depth is improving as I'm doing it. This is my second day of doing it. So now moving on to bent over rows with resistance bands. I typically use the heaviest resistance bands I can for this. And obviously it's not really comparable to a barbell, but I definitely feel I'm getting a really good engagement from it regardless. And the way I do this is I stand on one side of the rubber band and I pull on the other side of the rubber band. But I'd recommend you use your heaviest resistance band for this, as you can probably do a lot of weight, a lot of resistance for it. Moving on to chest press with resistance bands. For this, you're not going to get the full range of motion you would get from bench press, which is kind of why I guess in that way it can be a bit of a letdown. But as you saw from the start, you're getting the press-ups from this workout as well. Generally, you've got to be a bit careful with this movement because there's a lot of strain on the elbows. And obviously, you don't want to get tennis elbows, so just try not to lock out. Just leave a little gap, as you can see, like I'm doing there. Otherwise, you will get a bit of elbow tension. Now, moving on to front delt raises. This is just working the front. Typically what you do is you use dumbbells to just raise them, but instead what I've done is just tied the rubber band across my legs, and I'm just pulling it up. I'm using quite a light weight for this, you guys. In the last 2 exercises you saw I was using heavy. I'd recommend using probably a medium for this, but because you're using both hands I wouldn't go extra light. I'd probably go for a medium resistance band. Obviously if you don't have as much strength, lower the resistance band. And for this, I typically go a little bit heavier. This is essentially replacing a seated barbell curl, but using a resistance band. You're standing on it. You're standing on one side of the band, and you're essentially just curling with the other side. Now, naturally, your position is a bit hunched over, which is one of the reasons why I'm not a massive fan of doing this. But at the end of the day, you're getting a really nice bicep pump from it, and you're working your biceps in a way that is quite efficient, I'd say. Moving on to what I've essentially done is I've made a reverse curl. So essentially this is working the other head of the bicep, almost like you're doing hammer curls, isolated hammer curls. So I've wrapped both my feet around one side, and then I'm just pulling the other side of the rubber band. And for this one I'm using heavy as well, and yeah, I generally find it really effective for engaging that head of the bicep. As you can see, you can kind of see the bicep popping in this shot. So I generally find this is really, really efficient for working that head of the bicep. You're obviously going to do one side at a time as opposed to the previous one where it was more of a barbell. This is more naturally like you'd be using a dumbbell for isolation. But generally I find this to be quite an effective exercise for getting the biceps popping, increasing your bicep strength really. Moving on to the next exercise, I'm not sure if this exists or if it's just something I kind of created, but you just wrap one of the resistance bands around your torso, and then the other side you literally just pull outwards. And it's essentially just working your tricep. It's a tricep extension. You should be a bit careful with this, like I mentioned earlier. You don't want to get tennis elbows, so just make sure you're not going too heavy and make sure you're not really locking out. You want to keep a bit of a gap. But yeah, overall I find this really effective for engaging the triceps, as well as obviously the endurance warm-up where we were doing push-ups as well.